Love.
Welcome back to another episode of Beauty and the Priest. I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jim, and today we're talking about setting yourself up to have the best possible chance of success or living your best life.
Oh, I love it. Ooh.
Favorite topic there, Fiona, yeah?
Yeah, and this is a really good topic because as we record this, it's 2022 and we've been through 2 years of a global pandemic. And a lot of people reevaluated their priorities and how they want to do life and what they want to do. And so I think this is a really good time to have that conversation is how do you set yourself up and even pivot to live the life you want? What's
Yeah,
your initial thoughts?
I think it's really important to actually do that, to consciously go ahead and do it. Because if you're not consciously doing that, then who is? Who is going to be doing that for you? Once you accept that you are a grown up, that is one of the challenges, is that you have those rights, duties, and responsibilities that comes along with being a grown up.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to take possession of your life, then who is? Who is going to do that? And I think a lot of people often will just anchor themselves or hitch their wagon along with somebody else who seems successful or whatever, and that's what they'll do, and they'll think, okay, well, I'm just going to go along with that person, and that person together, we're going to get to that destination that I really want to live. That sometimes is not going to be the best way of doing that.
Yeah, and it might work for a little while, but eventually you've got to be in control. And I like that saying. I often say when it comes to time management in corporate, is like if you don't manage your time, someone else will.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about discipline. So there's three parts to, all right, I've reevaluated my life. I want to do something different. I want to live my best life. And a little bit of background on why Jim and I were chatting about this is because, Jim, you made the move to Queensland, like to move to a completely different state, to head up the church up there, and which was a massive move. And we were talking about how some people are like, oh, you're so lucky and you're so this. And we were just saying, no, we worked really, really hard and set ourselves up to be where we are right now. So one, it is about knowing, first knowing that you don't want to continue the life you've been living, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to want to break up with that first, because there needs to be some sort of thing that's driving you into this scary place, because it is a really scary place. It's uncomfortable. And so you've got to break up, you've got to decide to break up with the old life and decide what it is that you want to get out of life. What, as Jim says, what blows your hair back? What gets you excited? What gets you...
blowing my hair back?
Yeah, what blows your hair back? So Jim's change of life blew his hair back so much. Blew it clean off his head. He's loving his new life. But can you tell the viewers what you told me one day about being where you want to be in life? That's
sure. I think the phrase, I don't know who to attribute it to originally, but the bottom line of it is that the only thing, what you need to consider is to get from where you are to where you want to be, it's only really one decision. And it's usually the thing that's stopping you from getting there is the one decision you don't want to make. So that's really what it is. So what's stopping you from getting from there to there is only the decision you're unwilling to make. And when you look at it that way, it can actually help you to be a little bit more deliberate about making decisions.
Yes.
Making it really clear that it is my decision, that I'm actually choosing the life that I'm living right now. That's what I'm doing. Or it could even be that I'm choosing to live this life right now, but there's a finite part to that life. I'm only going to continue to live it for the next 3 weeks, 7 months, 2 years, whatever it is, in order to get whatever it is that I need to get.
Yeah. I think the key word in that statement, like the thing standing between where you are now and where you want to be, is a decision you are unwilling to make. Right. So the unwilling is the bit that really sort of cuts you to the core, because it's not that you can't make, that you're unable to make, it's unwilling to make. And that's the thing that really got me when you said that to me the first time. And so let that challenge you. If you're watching this and you're thinking, I've been wanting to do this or wanting to try that, is what is the decision, what is the move that you're unwilling to make, or the decision that you're unwilling to make that's standing between you and where you are? And even write it down. Like, what am I willing? Because I wrote my list for next year. What am I willing to sacrifice? What am I willing to learn? What am I willing to do? What fears am I willing to push through? Because often that's that element of fears and discomfort of the unknown, the security, the better the devil you know, for want of a better phrase. Yeah. But first of all, be prepared to quit or break up with what you're currently doing, and then work out what you want to do next. Now, as a life coach, I would really like to encourage you to make sure that what you're choosing to do next is what God created you for. Like, is that lining up with your personality, the passions or vision that God has put in your heart, your gifts, your skills, your abilities? And really do some self-assessment, like some shameless self-promotion. I've got a book called Transform Your Life that takes you through those steps that can do that for you. One moment.
One's just there.
There's a book full of assessments. There you go, right? But just reconnect with your values, your passions, your personality, and your gifts, and make sure what you're wanting to do lines up with what God created you to be and who God created you to be. And not what you see someone else doing that might be creating success for them, or something that might have the best dollar figure attached to it, because you will be setting yourself up for disappointment in the long run. It might work short term, but it's not really sustainable in most cases, right?
And I think even from that first step, or even that first pre-step, as it's a planning step, the thing to remember is, of course, that you're going to have things that are going to stop you from doing that. So without over spiritualizing them, there are things that are only within our own mind and physiology that stop us from doing those things. We're preconditioned or pre-set up to not want to change. There are certain people who love change, who thrive on change, but it does take a certain part of your mind to engage with that. If you're driving a vehicle, you don't think about every little change that constantly is being made all the time. You just sit on an autopilot effectively, and how to put on the indicator and put on the brake at the same time, and to turn all those different things. All those little decisions you're making, those micro decisions, are all part of a habit you've become accustomed to. Same with this. You're actually going to need to break some habits and to change some things about yourself to be able to get to the changes you want to make. That can be really daunting, and there's a whole lot of things that are going to get in your way to stop you from doing that. And so that can be challenging, especially if you start putting those on somebody else, a partner, a parent, a colleague, whatever. If you start putting those things on that person, you don't want me to change, you don't want me to do these things. Not necessarily true. It's actually yourself that's fighting against that. So
that's a really great point. So there's another step. So do some self-assessment and self-awareness stuff. Even just on that self-awareness, even go back and evaluate everything that you've ever loved doing, and then break it down to why did I love it and what did I love about it? Because those things might be transferable into your future. But with what you're saying, Jim, it's your brain is literally wired to protect you from discomfort. So that's why the fear happens in that discomfort when we try to change something that our brain is used to. And it is exactly what you said, those habits. So even if you write down a list of things that you can predict might be obstacles that will stop you or try to hold you back, fear, habit forming, and even other well-meaning loved ones around you that might go, oh, you can't do that. But what they're really saying is they couldn't do that, because you might be wanting to step out into something completely different where there's not really any security to start off with. And their values might be very firmly embedded in security and structure and routine. So when they say, oh, you can't do that, they're saying, I can't do that. So please be aware of people around you that might be very well-meaning. And recently I spoke to, here's a good example of that. Recently I spoke to the beautiful Moira Kelly, who worked with Mother Teresa in Calcutta, and she now brings sick kids over to Australia to have operations that wouldn't be accessible to them. So when she told me her story on No Ordinary Woman, she said...
Shameless plug.
shameless plug. She, noordinarywoman.com.au. She actually said that she did not tell her mum. She was 20 years old. She finished her studies and she didn't tell her mum that she was going to India and that she hadn't prepared anything or there was no one there meeting her. She was just going to wing it and work out how to do it as she went, because so passionately she desired to go and do what Mother Teresa was doing. So she told her mum, oh, there's this whole entourage there waiting for me. I've got the hotel ready. They'll be taking me to Mother Teresa. But what she did was landed in India and asked someone, where do I find Mother Teresa? There was no one there waiting for her. But had she have told her mother would have, out of her own fear and protection to want to protect her child, might have stopped her from doing that. So just be mindful of well-meaning people around you that might be a bit of an obstacle in your way. So, Jim, can you tell us about a time where you, well, recently, I guess, where you've completely changed and stepped out of one career and in another, and what were your biggest obstacles, you know, maybe according to that list or something completely different?
Yeah, I think just thinking back on it, I think the semantics is probably the part that was getting to me, which is how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
How am I going to make that actually happen? And a whole lot of little decisions that needed to be made. But as you said, which ones are you unwilling to make?
Yep.
That's really what the difference is. A whole lot of parts of that where you start thinking, well, I'm not sure. I know where I want to get to. So I had a very clear idea of where I was going.
Yeah.
Then I just needed to convince a whole lot of other people that I was the right person.
Yeah.
So there is that. So the one thing is having a very clear goal of what it is that you want to go ahead and do. And that's no different than moving from one state of Australia to another state, or even getting up in the morning to do the workout that you said last night you were going to go ahead and do.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Because when that alarm goes off in the morning that you've set yourself up for and you thought, not today.
Yes.
When you thought, look, and then the convincing starts, your own mind, your physiology works against you, and it starts saying, look, does it really matter? Does it really matter that much that I really have to get out and do those exercises and go for a run? Or I know I said to this person that I was going to go and do a workout with them, they'll forgive me. You know, these different things. It's exactly the same thing. They're all these little semantics and permissions. So with me, it was things like, how am I going to get that job?
Yes.
And I had 4 or 5 options because we knew we were going to go here. It was quite difficult in order to get there. We had some savings, but not a whole lot. But it was a whole lot of challenges that need to be made. So I think the first thing we did was start writing things down. Thankfully, I'm married to somebody who is really particular when it comes to writing all different things down and planning and making sure it all happens.
I need her in my life.
Yes, we bounce off each other very well. She makes sure that she plans really well. I come up with the big picture ideas of what we're going to go ahead and do, and we both come together and prayerfully agree. And then we just make it happen. So like I said, once you've if it's unwilling, if there is an unwilling decision that you're really that you've got that's stopping you from doing that, articulate it. And articulate it to the nth degree. So it's not just good enough saying, oh, I don't know that I want to. Well, that's actually you just giving yourself a cop-out. You know, I'm not sure if I want to. Okay, we'll put that aside, put that in one of the boxes, then start looking at all the other things. Of course, make a list on the other side of all the things that you want and all the things that you know that you really need to be able to go ahead and do. But writing things down, there's something about physically writing them down, not just typing them on a computer, physically writing them down. That does make a big difference. I did. There was a guy in the UK called Mark McYoung. He wrote a book on martial arts, which was really groundbreaking at the time. He was a bouncer. He wasn't very articulate. And what he did was he knew he needed to do those things. He knew he needed to write them down. And because he didn't really have anything, he would borrow a pen from somebody, and he would get like a napkin, like the hand towel you would use for wiping your hands. And he would be in the doorwell as he was bouncing. He would be writing things on this little napkin just to be able to have them down, and he'd put them away. And eventually that turned into his book, which you can go ahead and buy on martial arts. But that's don't let things get in your way. Don't give yourself excuses. Because or unwilling to make those decisions.
That's a
That's
word,
the
isn't
only
it?
way.
You think you're coming up with reasons, but what they are is excuses, and you're
Right.
trying to let yourself off the hook. And it is perfectly normal and perfectly natural. So here's when you're trying to do something, and like you said, Jim, it doesn't matter whether it's a small goal, and not that I was going to say a small goal like losing weight or getting fit. That's actually not a small goal. It's a big goal and a very important one. Or whether it is moving to another state, or whether it is changing jobs, or whether it is going back to school to study for the career that you really want, or breaking out and starting your own business. What you were saying, the semantics. So what I tell people is the how works itself out. What you really need to do is get in your heart, and what you've done with me, Jim, is like working out your bulletproofing. Why are you doing it? And sticking to that and making sure everything else directs that. If you get caught up in the how, it will literally paralyze you, and you will never get there, because you don't really need to work at the how. Kind of unfolds as you go. And this is a wonderful thing about God, is when you're doing something in partnership with God, and if you've lined up your will with God's will for your life, he does the heavy lifting and the setup and the how for you. It is quite amazing to see things unfold. If you don't get so caught up in the how, if you get caught up in the how, you're essentially controlling the outcomes a little bit too much as well, and you're not leaving space for God to enter in with, actually, I had something better for you. Actually, I've got something over here. It's what you said. It's adjacent to that, but it's actually going to be better for you in the outcome. And you never would have known that if you have your how worked out so meticulously, which, by the way, I don't think you really can. I've never been able to work out the how. But so work out your, why do I want to do this? First of all, who am I? Who do I want to be, rather than what do I want to do? Stick with the more around who do I want to be. And then let that unfold into the how by taking those small steps. And another book to read, it's not mine, and I swear this episode wasn't about promoting my chosen book, but this, a book that I have almost finished at the moment, is called Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
And if you are wanting to do something different with your life, please, please, please buy this book and get his, sign up to his email that he gets a weekly 321 emails. And the book Atomic Habits literally breaks it down to where my brain likes the simplicity of something. And it's about how to develop those micro habits for your macro results. So you know where you want to go, but then what this is focusing on is those little steps to get you there. And then how works itself out as well. So setting yourself up to succeed right at the beginning, but allowing yourself to take a couple of steps forward and one step back, and messing it up a little bit while you find your way there. And not letting yourself off the hook with, oh, but I can never do this. Well, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? Correct. Is it Maya Angelou that said that, or somebody
Probably.
else? I don't know. So it doesn't.
We didn't research enough for this.
I didn't know.
Just on that though, just thinking about what you just said about bulletproofing, I've used that term for a fairly long time, decades in fact.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't know that people necessarily think of it the same way that I do when it comes to bulletproofing. So when I was in the military, I had a training sergeant who had this terminology about bulletproofing, and that was that you would treat your drills like bloodless battles. Yeah. And you would treat your battles like bloody drills. And the idea is it's bulletproofing. You become so used to doing these things that you can't not win, if that makes sense. Yeah. And it's the same reason. It's the same methodology you would get from people like Tiger Woods when he was in his prime, where he would go and win that tournament, and they'd go, well, where is he? Is he doing the press stuff now? No, he's still out practicing. He would just be so diligent and so focused. So although he's, is it playing the game or is it training, doesn't really make any difference. He's still doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what I think of when I think of bulletproofing. It's making sure that you are so practiced in those things, so that when those obstacles come, whether that's from your own brain saying, do we really need to go ahead and do that, or whatever else like that, or outside forces saying, are you sure? It's like, you don't even step into that space, because it's like, can't hear you over the sound of me practicing and doing what I'm wanting to do.
Yes. And what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? So when you talk about bulletproofing, and Jim has mentored me and continues to, because he's just this wise, amazing man. But when I break that down to bulletproofing, it is working out what I want to do, why I want to do it, and then every decision that I make has to point to that, has to be in service of that. And that's what I call my bulletproofing list, or vision. And that sort of, it helps me because I've got a brain that gets, delighted by shiny objects. And I go, oh, don't I, Jim?
Yeah. Well, doesn't everybody?
Yeah. Well, yeah. New is always better, right? But if you know exactly what you want to do and why you want to do it, then you can just, every time something comes in to distract you, you can go, well, does that serve my vision? Does that serve my outcomes that I'm looking for? Yeah. And then you because we tend to try and do everything, and we've become this culture of busy and over servicing and all that sort of stuff, you need to start going, I need to start saying no to things, and I need to quit things as well. You taught me that as well. Like, you need to quit something. And so this is where, and you need to break up with stuff or quit stuff. And that's where it can get uncomfortable as well, because you realize that all those extra things that are vying for your attention will be diluting the quality and the love and the effort that goes into where you really want to be. So those daily decisions and micro habits have to be in service to your vision and your goals.
Yeah.
And it's not a pretty journey. Here's something that I really, really, really want to stress. Anything that you want to do in your life that's new, and especially the further out of your comfort zone it is, it's not a pretty or perfect journey. So if you're trying to set yourself up for perfection and pretty, then you will never get there, because you'll spend so much time planning. You need to just start. You'll never have enough money. You'll never have enough, like, if you're waiting for the intelligence, the course, the money, all the time, you may as well just stay where you are, because you'll never have enough. What you need to do is start moving. Just start taking one step at a time towards those goals in any small micro way to get your macro results. And don't try and work out all the details ahead of time, because again, that's one of the things that will paralyze you, especially if you're a bit of a perfectionist or a control freak. And I don't say those in a derogatory way, because I have battled with both of those things. Just know that might be some habits that have worked for you in the past that might stunt your growth moving forward. Sometimes you've got to go, this is good enough to get going.
Yeah.
I'll perfect it as I go. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the other part of that that's really important to think of is that the decisions we're unwilling to make, and those decisions that are needed to be able to be made in order to get the life that you really want, or the career, or the options, or all those different things, they're going to be challenging.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, as somebody like myself who's all about destinations rather than journeys, it's actually the journey that is really, really important.
Yes.
So those days that you spend in the gym, those days that you don't eat cake, those days that you just put in and slave away at a course that you've been doing, or a job that you're doing to get you to where you want to get to, embrace them, learn everything you can every moment that you're doing those type of ones, because that's actually developing your character.
Yes.
And character is something that nobody can really take away from you. People can say things about you, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
That it really means something if you want it to mean something. But building our own character is something that other people genuinely do see about you. If you're known as somebody, if you've built a reputation of doing those things, that's actually what's going to make all the difference. It doesn't matter if you're the one who's sitting on that boat, enjoying the sun, reading a book or whatever. Well, okay, but you made decisions to get yourself there.
Look how clever you were to get there.
Yeah, so many people want to be on that boat, laying there in the sun, reading the book.
They won't do the hard work. Yep.
Correct. And that's really what builds the character of getting there, So you've got to be able to get the character that has that life. And
that's really what God's concerned about with us as well, is our character building, not our own kingdom building. No. And so here's where it can get a bit tricky, especially for Christians, is like, we need to find that sweet spot between building our own kingdom, building God's kingdom, which is by building our character and contributing to the people around us, the community. but also that God wants us to have good, beautiful things. Like it says in the Bible, I will make your battlements of rubies and lapis lazuli. And you know what? Like, that's not like I'll build you a little straw hut out the back, is it? So yes, God wants you to have a abundant, rich, amazing life, but we also need to make sure we're not building our own kingdom and ignoring his in the process. But the challenges that we face are usually in our own head, and other people around us sometimes don't like us succeeding, and they might not even be consciously aware of that. People sometimes will chip you down because what really is happening is that you're making them feel bad about themselves, but that's not your fault, it's theirs. So
yeah, I think that's true. There can also be people who genuinely want good things for you, but just don't want to see you suffer heartbreak. You know, I can remember back in the late 80s when I was looking to join the military at that stage, and I was working in a factory at the time, and one of the guys I was working around the area with, when he'd heard about what I was doing, he was trying to say to me, you know, you really need to go for that unit, you know, because there are other things you can do, because you got to understand sometimes you won't get to do that. You won't get to be a Green Beret. You won't get to do those different things, and you need to make sure that you're okay with that. People will say those things to you and genuinely mean it from a heart of wanting you to not get hurt. But that's still your life to live. You know, once you become an adult, it's your life, and you're going to suffer the hits, but you'll also be wearing the benefits of different things as well. So don't necessarily just set people aside or put them in the category of being #haters. You know, it's not that. Sometimes people are genuinely worried about your heart, and when you hit the wall with those type of things, you can bounce off, and it can set you back sometimes. But you've just got to look at it as being part of the character building.
It is, because all of my resilience has come from things that are broken heart, broken bones. My bones are stronger because they've been broken. My heart is stronger because it's been broken. My brain is stronger because it's been broken. You can play it safe, or you can play it big. But if you're going to play it big, you need to be prepared that you are going to fail along the way, and failure is a stepping stone to success. Right? If you haven't failed a lot, you haven't tried hard enough. And very quickly, story, because I know there's a lot of stories in here, like Richard Branson, right? You've all heard of Virgin Money and Virgin Airlines and Virgin what's the other one? Music. Have you heard of Virgin Cola? No, you haven't. But it was a thing. I actually was watching Friends the other day, and there was a Virgin Cola bottle, because Richard Branson dared to take on Coke and Pepsi, Coke and Pepsi, but it didn't work. But if he had wanted to play small his whole life and go, well, then, you know, there's already so many other airlines, I won't try Virgin Airlines, or I won't try it, right? So that's an example on a larger scale. Play safe or play big, and be prepared to make mistakes, and then get excited about your mistakes and go, woohoo, that's a lesson that I'm going to learn. That's going to build my resilience. I'm going to learn how not to do this, but pivot in a different direction. So really embrace mistakes as being a stepping stone to your success. So change your relationship with mistakes and failure. Oh my gosh, we could go on about this. We might even do a part 2 of this, but just to summarize what we've been discussing so far, is to get from where you are to where you want to be is the decision that you're unwilling to make, number one takeaway. But whether it is health and fitness, career, family, buying a house, moving, starting a business, whatever it is about working out, do I want to break up with the life that I've got so far, or bits of it? Who am I and who do I want to be? And focus more on the who am I rather than the what you want to do, because that sort of unravels along the way. Who do I want to be? What did God give me? So God said to Moses, use what is in your hand. And I use that. I go, right, use what is in your hand. What are my gifts? What's my experience? What are my values? Let that be your GPS to get you where you need to go. And what might stand in my way? Write down your obstacles and how you're going to overcome them. Sales 101, isn't it? And And who might my resources be? Who's going to be my cheer squad? Who can help me? What do I need, and who do I need to help me get there? And that's the best place. That's your launching pad to get you where you need to go.
Yeah, I think that's very true. The other part of it is, of course, put in place habits, micro habits, that are character building and character developing.
Yes.
They're the ones to really concentrate on. They will actually take you to that journey. That's the semantics of making sure you'll get to where you need to be. And even if you don't get to where you are ultimately looking to be, you will actually have the character that is ready to set you up. You actually won't be able to fail.
Yeah. Leave space for God to enter in, because it is a partnership. Leave space to let God do the heavy lifting for you, and you just show up and be the person he created you to be. And so again, just those micro habits, that book, Atomic Habits, really hones in on who you want to be as well. It's a really brilliant book, and it's such an easy read because I don't like details and over complicated stuff. So yeah, and so I'd love to know your thoughts. If you want to leave comments and thoughts down in the comments section, I'd love to know, have you experienced this? Are you wanting to? What might your challenges be? And just as a sort of community, just encourage each other. But yeah, I'll leave some links to the different books and the things that we've mentioned to help you with some resources. But yeah, any final words, Jim?
Just don't be unwilling. Be prepared to be challenge your own unwillingness. Is a key. Dare to dream. Dare to dream to have a great life, because you've only got one of them.
Dare to dream and live this one great, amazing life. Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jim.
Thanks, Fiona.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you again for another episode of Beauty and the Priest. Bye for now.